So I've checked out several of the tier maker lists on tiermaker.com, and although there are several Subnautica tier lists, I could not find a single one that was every fish. We've got plenty that have all of the Leviathans. We've got some that have some of the Leviathans and some of the other fish, but I couldn't find one that had every fish. So guys, today we are going to go through a tier list ranking every single Subnautica fish, except for the below zero ones. Don't worry about those. I am going to rank these entirely according to my whim and taste. Sometimes I'll rank them according to how dangerous they are. Sometimes I'll rank them according to how scared of them I was. Sometimes I'm going to rank them by how meaningful they were to my experience. And sometimes I'm going to look at their stupid dumb faces and give them a rank according to that. You can't stop me. All you can do is watch and hit the like button. Thank you. On that note, we're going to go in more or less alphabetical order. We'll start with the carnivore fish, okay? And we'll go in alphabetical order, and then we'll go to the non-carnivore fish, and then we'll go into the Leviathans, and we will rank them as we go. We are going to start out with the ampheel. Some of these pictures are not the greatest. You probably can't see the whole fish, but you get the idea. If you don't know who it is, look it up. The ampheel is the little electro fish that swims around, and it's got the little electro nodes around it and all that. I ran into them in a really dark part of Subnautica. You dive deep down into it, starts getting all dark and spooky and gloomy and shit. And these guys were like literally the only light source. And because they lit the way in the darkness, as my thalassophobia started to kick in and I started seeing the deep gloom of the abyss of not being able to see anything around me, except for these guys go B tier. Easy. Our next one is going to be the biter fish. Biter fish is the little guys, I believe, that will literally do that. They'll bite you. They'll latch onto your suit, and then you like have to smack them away with your scanner or whatever the fuck's in your hand. You get a cool little unique animation, so at least like, you know, that kind of broke up the monotony of just swimming around. However, they tried to like drink my blood. So for that rude bullshit alone, F tier. Get the fuck out of here. Our next one is going to be the blighter fish. I'm going to be totally frank with you. I remember seeing these guys, didn't go close enough to them to actually have any real interactions. So having no interactions with them, we'll just put these at a mediocre C tier. Next up, we have the bone shark, a fish that needs absolutely no introduction. It's the only fish with bones in the first place, as a matter of fact. None of the other fish have any bones at all. Cool Subnautica fact, on Subnautica World, there's no bones in the fish. They're all pre-boneless fish. You can look that up if you want, but why would you? You can trust me. We are going to give them a B rank. And now I know what you're thinking. You're thinking to yourself, oh, he's going to give them a B rank because of bonefish. And fuck you, I'm not that lazy. First of all, let's establish that, okay? But no, we're not going to go B for bonefish. We're going to go B because the bonefish were one of the fish that I ran into, and they would sneak up on you and fuck with you, right? You know, because they're pretty aggressive, and they're not super giant, so they're not crazy dangerous, but they're just aggressive enough and dangerous enough to make you go, ah, fuck, what the hell is that? However, it did break up the monotony of specifically, I remember running into these guys the most when I was doing a whole bunch of farming of different material and minerals and shit like that. So they helped keep that a little bit more fresh. We're going to put them on B tier. Not the best fish out there, but fun enough. Okay, there we go. Bonefish. Bam. All right, next up we have the crab snake, this little bugger right over here. Now, the crab snake, I very vaguely remember. I think this is another one that I mostly didn't run into. They were down in the jellyfish caves, and I was kind of speed running my way through there at that point for the most part. I think I had one like latch onto my face at some point or something like that. I think that's what one of the face huggery type monsters, but I might be entirely hallucinating that and making it up, so don't quote me on that. Honestly, I don't really remember this dude all that much. We're gonna have to put him in the D tier because he's super forgettable, and there's lots of crimes that you can have as a fish in Subnautica, but being forgettable is pretty bad, right? Like being a forgettable fish, you going pretty much straight to the bottom. The only thing worse than you is the scumbag fish, so that's why he doesn't get an F, because he's not. I don't remember him being a scumbag. I don't remember him at all. So D tier it is. Next up, we are going on the crab squid. Crab squid automatic S tier, baby, because that motherfucker was creepy as shit. I never really got fucked up by the crab squids. I remember going through an area where there were like 5 of them and they were all floating around. They were super creepy. Ended up going down into like this little nook where they couldn't quite get to me, but they all knew I was there and they all just hovered, right, menacingly with their giant bulbous fucking enormous brain things. And it was just really creepy, and I made eye contact with a few of them for a really long time. I feel like by the time they left, we had earned each other's respect. So S tier. Next, we have the crash fish. Is there any question? Fucking F tier. Get them out of the game. All right, next up, we have the lava lizard. We found the lava lizard, obviously in the lava zones. All right. And I'm going to give the lava lizard, honestly, I'm going to give him a C. I remember running into the lava lizard and kind of checking them out, and they were pretty grumpy, and they kind of, you know, were all like, get away from me kind of shit, right? But they didn't really do too much more than that, and there were a lot more interesting and crazy things in the lava zone at the time, including the lava. You could tell that they were in the middle of a nap when I came through their area, because literally they were just like, get out. C tier at best. Next, we have the mesmere. The mesmere is the little tricksy fairy fuck fish, right? It psychically probes you, and then like you're just swimming around, doing your thing, minding your own business, and then all of a sudden you like stop swimming and you have like a what the fuck is going on type incident, and then you hear the voice of your computer drone in your head because it uses the voice of your computer, the only voice you hear in almost the entire game, and that freaked me the fuck out, even though it's a very brief little encounter. It is so effective to just like really trip you out to go, what? Why the fuck is my computer suddenly being fucking weird and hostile and shit to me? And then you're like, holy shit, it's a mind control fish. It really freaked me out, made me very uncomfortable. S tier. There we go. Bam. Next up, we have the river prowler. We find them down in the Lost River in the bone fields. The bonefish didn't really do too much in the way of threatening me or messing with me, but I thought it was cool that we had like a fish that had like seemed to have some kind of evolution tied to like the bone dead carcassy animal area that it made its home in. It's almost like it evolved to impersonate all of the bones that were gathered around where it was. So just for being thematic and lore appropriate, we're gonna go ahead and give them a B tier. Next up, we have the sand shark. Totally not very threatening, and it doesn't really damage you. Early area fish, doesn't really mess with you too much. I swear it made it to the point where I would not go low along the ground, right? Like it really taught me, do not skim along the floor of the sea. Every time they were there, it's almost like they were built into whatever location I touched. They were programmed to be there. 9 times out of 10, if I was swimming along the shallows and touching the actual ground, trying to find, you know, some wreckage or rubble, there they were every time, or like 9 times out of 10, you know. Often enough so that I got paranoid and refused to do such activities anymore because I was just tired of them just hopping up. I'm just minding my own business, trying to scrounge for material, trying to get some crafting going on. I don't even have my domicile built yet. My base isn't even a thing. It's just an image in the back of my mind that I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. And there, this motherfucker just pops up every time, hostile, trying to eat me. I didn't even bother it. I'm just looking for stuff. And it was just always in the way. A tier. Next up, we have the stalker. F tier. I'm not even gonna explain it. F tier, this son of a bitch. That's where he goes. That's where he stays. You're welcome. Next up, we have the warper. Now, I had some debate here, right, about even including the warper in the tier list, because technically speaking, the warper is not a fish. The warper is some bioengineered monstrosity. It's basically like the alien equivalent of a Frankenstein. They took a little bit of alien DNA, took a little bit of fish DNA, took some pond scum that they found at the bottom of the ocean, just mixed all that shit together and said, get after it. But it is in Subnautica and it is in the ocean, so we are gonna go for fish. Spooked the shit out of me the first time I ran into them, purely because I was first discovering alien ruins. So like that was all new and kind of creepy. What is this weird place that looks nothing like anything else? What have I just stumbled upon? So that's already got me on guard. And then literally this far in front of my face, one of these motherfuckers teleports in directly all up in my grill. That was my first encounter. I didn't even see what it was. I just saw like the grill area and a little bit of beady eye action going on. I might have peed a little bit. I'm not sure. So A tier, right? Going into the herbivore category, our nice, non-hostile, non-bitesy, non-fucked up fish. We are going to start out with bladderfish. S tier all the way, baby. Literally, you can't survive this game without bladderfish. S tier. Next up, we have the boomerang fish. This baby over here, very aptly named. I feel like an Australian was definitely involved in the naming of this fish because, you know, it reminded them of their homeland, let's say. The most remarkable thing that I remember about the boomerang fish is how much of a fucking pain in the ass it was to catch them whenever I needed some food. It was abysmal. It was horrible. I hated chasing these things. Of all the tiny fish in the starter area, it was the biggest pain in the ass. F tier. Get the fuck out of here. Crimson ray fish was in the lava zone. And it's exactly what it sounds like. It's a crimson ray. It's a big old red ray fish that just kind of glided around and chilled out in the lava zone. Very thematic, very much set the mood. Honestly, there wasn't anything all that particularly crazy special about them. They were cool to look at. It was pretty closely on par with the lava lizard in that there wasn't anything like crazy remarkable about it. But I will say this, the design, at least on the Crimson Ray, was neater and it was more eye-catching than the lava lizards. Also, the lava lizards took a swipe at me, even though they didn't really get anywhere with it. They pretty much missed and nothing came of it, but they still took a swipe at me. The Crimson Ray fish were always chill dudes. They were like, oh, hey, here's some weird fish that we've never seen before hanging out, but I'm being a Crimson Ray, just kind of going about my day, so I don't care. So we'll put them B tier just to put them above the lava lizard to spite them. On to the cuttlefish. Now we go into hot take territory. This is gonna get me a lot of flack in the comments. Go ahead, light it up. I don't care. Cuttlefish, meh fish, okay? And you know why it's a meh fish? I'll tell you why it's a meh fish. It's just a sea lion, okay? It's just a seal. And you know what they did to seal fuckers back in the day? Well, nothing, because most of them were sailors on ships and they were so lonely as a collective that they were gonna put their dick in just about anything, okay? But I can't psychologically put myself into that headspace. I have never been desperate enough to fuck a seal, walrus, sea lion, or any of those categories, although my ex-wife might slightly fit into that. So yeah, we're going to take the cuttlefish. I'm gonna say it. Cuttlefish, all it does is it gives you the comfort of another being that isn't trying to kill you. It mimics the fluff of a portly woman to perhaps warm you in your bed in the night, but that's very distracting from your mission of getting away from this death planet of oceanic madness and back to where you belong. So just on the factor of uselessness and general distractiveness and memories of my ex-wife alone, C tier at best, guys. All right, cuttlefish belongs in the C tier. At me, I dare you. The eye fish, as I recall, was obviously floating eyeball fish, giant, you know, it's basically just all eye, right? Okay, not memorable, nothing special about it, just a feeder fish floating around. It made me say the redundant eye twice, and it makes me feel stupid for that. So F tier fish, don't make me feel stupid. Thank you. Next up, we have Gary fish. All right. If we had a problem with eye fish just based on a stupid name, we have the opposite thing going on with Gary fish. Why would you not name a fish Gary fish? It's the perfect name for a fish. You can literally use it for so much. You can use it for familiarity's sake, right? Hey, there's my buddy Gary. He's gonna be good eating. Good old Gary. All right, you can also use it as a wrathful statement. Like, you know, he's swimming all up in your face and running away and shit, not letting you catch him. You can be like, Gary, get back care, Gary. I'm just saying, it's a very versatilely named fish. He also looks super derpy. So that's also fun. So A tier fish. Also, we put the wrong eye fish there. That's the eye fish. This one's a reskinned eye fish, I guess. Next up, we have the gasopod. Now, the gasopod, although it is a passive fish, it is a non-predator fish, right? It is an herbivore fish. It can hurt you. It can damage you because it'll spit out the gassy pods. This is just a gassy boy in fish form, which is basically a caustic in fish form for anyone who plays Apex, you nerds. I would never. These are just the gassy boy fish of the sea. They're the farters, the ass rippers, the rip roarers, the thunderbutts. All right, just basically pit-pattering around the sea to spread their gassy vibes. And I didn't realize this for the longest time, but you actually have to farm like basically literal shit pellets from them in order to do a little bit of crafting at least. So I'm gonna automatically have to drop them down on the tier list a little bit for the fact that I had to go scrape up the poo-poos. However, I did have several instances where they got stuck and clipped into like some rocks, and some of them actually like got stuck in some tunnels, and they just sat there continuous. Like I could just swim close enough to set off their startle reflex, and then they just kept on shitting and farting themselves continually in their own little tunnel. And I laughed for a good long while off of that. So we're gonna put these guys up to a B tier just off of that bit of comedy alone. We have the ghost rays, all right? The cool blue cousins to the crimson rays. These boys hang out at the giant ghost tree. It's the only tree of its kind in the whole game. Big old underground in this like, you know, water cave tree. These guys are just cruising around it, swimming around, being all chill. It was really cool. It was a really cool moment. The vibe was really cool in there. The music kicked on and it was all like peaceful but nice tempoed and compelling. It was a nice like chill moment before you dove deeper into, I believe the lava zone was under there. Y'all can correct me in the comments. I'm probably wrong. But it was a nice little chill, relaxed moment of the game, and I really liked it, and these boys played a big part of it. So we're gonna put them up in A tier. Next up, we have the whole fish. This sucker over here. It's a fish that's distinctly defined by its hole, okay? All right, as you can see, giant hole in its tail. I feel like this hole is completely evolutionarily redundant. How would you possibly be able to get an effective like swimming motion with this hole in your tail? Your tail is supposed to be, you know, moving through the water and creating some friction and drag to propel you forward. I don't see how that's happening with this giant hole right there in your tail. Also, feel like it's subliminally sexual, and I don't like any connotation of that kind of thing with the fish, so F tier. Next up, we have the hoop fish, all right? Another one of these redundant, stupid designs. I appreciate the bright colors and all that. That's kind of cool, but I don't see how this is going to help in any evolutionary way to swim or have any kind of use at all. Also, I don't think I did anything with this fish ever except for eat like one as a snack, and that was enough to satiate me for reattempting it for the whole game. So, hoop fish, D tier. Not bad enough to go into F tier, but you're pretty garbage anyways, so get out of here. Next up, we have the hoverfish. I don't even know if we can properly quantify this as a fish. It looks like a frog that had an accident with an amazing Spider-Man spider. Like, this frog was just living his little frog life, or maybe a tadpole. We'll be a little more accurate and say tadpole. And then Peter Parker's radioactive spider jumped into Subnautica land and bit the shit out of him, and now he has developed some spidery legs and also possibly teenage awkwardness, as Spider-Man also did. Nothing particularly crazy. I like the design. It's a little unique, a little different from some of our other fishy friends, but not anything crazy noteworthy as far as experiences. Also, not really too scared of this dude because I don't think he even belongs in the ocean. So D tier. There you go. Nah, we'll put him C tier. I'll be generous because tadpoles and frogs can be kind of cool. He'll get the C tier treatment. okay? All right, next up we have the jelly ray fish. Jelly ray fish may remind me of nothing so much as a combination of jellyfish and ray fish, which obviously they do based on both their visual design and their naming system. Not too fond of jelly rays, because they sting you. I've been stung by a jelly ray. That shit sucks. Also, ray fish can technically kill you. Steve Irwin's a testament to that. So even though all in all, I kind of like the aesthetic of the design, you can't see it great on this cut off, choppy little picture, but the design itself is kind of visually cool. But given that it's basically just a combination of two of the biggest assholes in the sea, we got to put that fucker in the F tier. Get out of here. Rest in peace, Mr. Irwin. Next, we have the Magmarang. This boy over here, it's just the boomerang fish, but on fire. I'm gonna have to automatically dock it twice. First of all, for being just a reskin of the boomerang fish. Fuck the boomerang fish, as we've established. Second of all, Magmarang is such a ridiculous name, but it's so ridiculous that I kind of like it, and it's a fish that's on fire, so automatically we'll go D tier. Still a pretty shitty fish, but better than the base level boomerang fish, just on virtue that it's on fire and it has an even more stupid name. So there we go. Next up, we have the Oculus fish. The Oculus fish is just the peeper fish, but stoned. It's pretty much the exact same design, just a little bit thinner and ganglier, and it's got the giant bloodshot pink eye. That's how you know that this is basically just the stoner version of a peeper fish. Also, it's a reskin. Also, it's an imitator. So, you know, we have to put this right here in the D tier once again. Copycat fish, D tier. Next, we have the peeper fish. All right, now we're getting to the OG version of the little pink eye stinker, okay? Not only is it the OG version of the Oculus fish, therefore superior, but also the peeper fish is the entire reason why we get the enzymes that we need to create the cure to the giant, fish virus that we get infected with in Subnautica. We have to have some dealings with the peeper fish in order to get that at all, in order to escape the planet, in order to not get alien death raid out of the sky, also so that we cannot die of fish cooties and AIDS. And none of that would have happened without the peeper fish. Also, one of the earliest fish that you can snack on in the game, and better eating than any of the other surface level fishes. So S tier, peeper fish is S tier. Next up, we have the rabbit ray. I have a little bit of beef with the rabbit ray. I'm not gonna lie to you. First of all, they call it a rabbit ray, but it literally just has like two little horn things sticking out of its head. Those don't look like rabbit ears. I feel like that was a gross overgeneralization of what a rabbit looks like. But an even bigger beef I have is in the early area of the game, there's rabbit rays swimming around doing the rabbit ray things, whatever the hell that means. I went after them so many times trying to get a snack. I'm starving. My food level is completely bottomed out. I'm about to die. I need to eat a fish right now. And you can't eat a rabbit ray. At least I couldn't figure it out. You can't cook it with the knife. You can't seem to take it out any other way. As far as I know, rabbit rays are inedible. And I chased after so many of them trying to get a meal, and probably did some internal stomach damage from how hungry I got trying to take them out, thinking that it was a food fish, but it wasn't. So this has definitely got to be D tier. D tier, just off of sheer annoyance. We have the red eye. The red eye is just the eye reskinned to be red, which is basically the same thing as the Oculus. So you know what? Already F tier for the red eye, for the regular eye rather, and the red eye is even worse because it's just a reskin pothead stoner eye. So this one is such a low tier, I'm not even gonna rank it, all right? You're not even an F tier. You're below an F tier. You're lower than the lowest tier, therefore we're just gonna throw you off the board. Throw it off. Close enough. Unrankable trash, the red eye. That's what you are. All right, next up we have Reginald. Reginald is a great name for a fish, much like our friend Gary, all right? So it's got a neat little design as like a vertical fish. It's got like this cool little vertical fin going on. Big old gaping eyeball there. Nice coloration going on. Reginald, I caught a couple of them for some eats. I appreciate the name. You know, like I said, it's a versatile name. You could use that if you decided to do a British accent, which I won't do because I can't do British accents at all, and I'm not gonna subject myself or any of y'all to that. We're gonna put him down here in the B tier. Not as cool a fish name as Gary, but still a well aptly named fish. Makes you feel like he's like the version of Gary fish that's a little less derpy, a little more refined fish over here is Reginald. But Gary's an everyman, so he gets to be an A tier fish. Being a refined gentleman is all good and everything, but it's not as good as being a relatable everyman like Gary, so B tier. Next up, we have the Sky Ray. The Sky Ray, this little fellow over here, is just another of the mini ray type fish, only they stick to the sky and they fly around in the air. I tried to catch one on the top of my escape pod a couple of times to see if I could get some good eating going on, and the motherfuckers kept on dipping out of the way before I could reach them with my knife. Fish don't belong in the sky. I mean, I've got problems with the ocean, being a thalassophobic and everything, but one thing I know is that as much as I have issues with the ocean and the fish in it, I don't want any fish outside of the ocean. They don't belong in the sky. I already have to deal with birds being pesky. I don't need fish in the sky as well. F tier. Next up, we've got the spadefish. The spadefish, I guess because it's slightly shovel shaped, but honestly, how did we get to naming it after a shovel shape and not the giant weird ass eye in the middle of its back? Not even like where its face should be or anything like that, on its back. But it gave me the creeps, so C tier. Next up, we have the spinefish. Our spiny little fella right here. This is like a reskin of the hoopfish, right? Like a different version of that. You can see the same shape going on here. However, where the hoopfish is bright and colorful and, you know, all neon glowy over here, the spinefish is basically wearing a skeleton costume from Walmart, and I dig it, so I'm automatically bumping it up in points a little bit for that. But more importantly, when I found the spinefish, I found them the first time when I was literally way deep down. I think down in the Ghost Forest, one of the deeper areas, right? I went down, ventured down there to explore, ended up going too deep, ran out of all my food, used it all up, was not nearly able to go back to the surface in time to go restock or any of that stuff. And the spinefish was the only fish I could find in the area that was edible. So I munched on these dudes and saved my life. These guys were a nutritious, delicious lifesaver. So S tier. Next up, we have the amoeboid. The amoeboid is technically qualified as a scavenger and parasite type fish, but it is considered a fish, according to Wiki at least. And the Subnautica Wiki would not lie, probably. I don't know. Anyways, we're going to count it as a fish. It's got that slightly almost jellyfish type of appearance, only without the tentacles and all that. It's got like the gelatinous type of appearance, which really just reminded me of Cool Blue Jello, which was one of the best flavors of Jello back in the day. So we're going to give that a solid B tier. Next up, we've got the ancient floater. This is one of the ones that latched onto rocks and got them to like levitate upwards, I'm pretty sure, which was super cool lore-wise. Like it was really neat how they had like, you know, a fish that was actually like not just feeding in a symbiotic relationship with like the land masses and stuff like that, but actually like shifted the islands around, lifted up rocks, all kinds of cool stuff like that. Really cool, interesting fish. We're gonna put that in the A tier just because it was such a cool way to create some environmental type effects. Next up, we have the bleeder fish. The bleeder fish is just another one of those fish that leeches onto you and sucks you dry and tries to be parasitic and drain your blood. F tier, get them out of here. I don't want Get out. Next up, we've got the blood crawler. The blood crawler is one of the crab enemies that you have to deal with. Well, I mean, you don't really have to, but inevitably you'll run into them in some capacity. Not really too much in the way of threats. They can kind of, you know, bite around you a little bit, and if you get a couple of them messing with you at one time, not too bad in terms of danger or scary or anything like that. So we're gonna put this at a nice, cool C. Okay, just kind of memorable enough to deal with, but not really a big enough threat for me to go, oh fuck. Next, we have the cousin, the cave crawler. Cave crawler is pretty much the same thing as the blood crawler, just less inclined to need some blood. So this one is very similar to the blood version. Not really all that interesting, not really all that threatening. We'll take this one and we'll put them in B tier. Next up, we have what we will essentially call the incidentals, right? The fish that honestly, they were just kind of there. Floaters, all right. Floaters, I vaguely remember them. They were just stuck to like a bunch of, you know, surfaces and stuff like that. I'm gonna have to take this fish and put it in the B tier because it looks like a butthole. Looks like a butthole. B tier for butthole. Next, we have the lava larva. Fuck. Looks like a little, well, exactly what it's described as, a larva. I don't think I even ran into these suckers, to be honest. I don't remember any of them in the lava zone. And they kind of aren't up to code. Most of the stuff that you find in the lava zone are literally lava themed. They're covered in flames. They're breathing flames. There's something flame or lava or glowy about them. And this guy just doesn't make the cut. He's the only thing in the lava zone, as far as I can tell, that isn't lava themed aside from the name. So he's not living up to the name. He's not on theme. He's bringing the vibe of the rest of the lava zone down. So we're going to have to go put him in D tier at best. Next up, we have the rock grub. This is the tiny, tiny little munchkin motherfucker that he's like the tiny little speck guy. He's basically like the tiniest of all of the fish, essentially, right? Like he's literally just like a little speck you can see just kind of floating around in the sea. He's basically just sentient algae is what he is. I don't see how he's much of anything else. So we're going to put him in D tier. Next up, we have the shuttlebug, this buddy over here. The shuttlebug, as far as I can recall, actually stands kind of like on two legs when it's along the surface of the bottom, or if it's on one like the wall type area. The fact that they have the two little legs inclined me to believe that maybe this is going to be the Subnautica world's precursor to humans. Perhaps in thousands, millions, billions of years or what have you, these guys that already have two bipedal leg appendages will also come to be humanoid and thus take over their own planet and inevitably doom it with pollution and war and nuclear weapons and what have you. So being that these are essentially the precursors to human, F tier. All right. Now we get into the heavy hitters. Essentially what everyone is here for in the first place. The big mambas, the Leviathans. Most of them have a typical form and also a juvenile form that is covered by the Wikipedia. Even though I don't necessarily remember the juvenile forms all too much, I am nonetheless going to rank them. The Ghost Leviathan is found in the worst place in the game. We find the Ghost Leviathan, of course, in the ecological dead zone, in the edge of the world, in the big black expanse of nothingness. That although the Ghost Leviathan is incredibly creepy, very intimidating, especially when it starts coming after you, very creepy, very ominous, very scary. But in addition to being scary, they are bright. They are the one source of light and life that you find in the entirety of the ecological dead zone. In a very strange way, although the Ghost Leviathans are terrifying, I would rather one of these giant, glowing, creepy motherfuckers destroy me and bring an end to life as I know it than continue to float around in the endless abyssal darkness. S tier. Next up, we have the juvenile ghost Leviathan. We find in the bone fields, I believe, and the ghost forest, we find them lurking there. We find these in a self-contained cave, and it is much less frightening and scary as a result, although it is still very intimidating. You trade some things here, right? First of all, I believe there's only one in the cave where you encounter it, so you don't have to deal with the 2, 3, maybe even 4 ghost leviathans all swarming out of the darkness at you, okay? So you're only dealing with one. You also aren't dealing with it in the infinite abyss of the ecological dead zone, which is very uncomfortable, very intimidating, very scary. I don't like it, and so that is not as bad to deal with. However, you do run into it in a cave, which it makes the whole situation change. It's contained, it's more cramped. It's not a tiny little cave, so it's not really claustrophobic, but you do have this sense of like the ghost leviathan filling up the space and making you feel very crowded and uncomfortable. It's a very different encounter than the one that you have with the full-grown ghost leviathans. Still very, very cool. I would have to say I would put this at an A rank. Next up, we have everybody's favorite, the big bad, the Reaper Leviathan. As much as I think that if you were to scale threat levels by a purely like metric of how dangerous is this creature, I think that the Ghost Leviathan is a more dangerous creature than the Reaper. However, the Reaper fish is more aggressive, more hostile, more intimidating. It is much louder and fiercer, and it gets all up in your grill, all in your face, and you run into them in much more varied areas. You run into them all the way in the shallows if you happen to go to the right part of the shallows, which is a very startling encounter. And then you run into them in the deeper parts of the ocean where it's not as abyssal as the ecological dead zone, but it is nonetheless dark enough for you to just be entirely exposed and feel lost and feel vulnerable, and they're just swimming around down there like the little shits they are. I will never forget the time that I was out swimming in the darkness, right? I'm out harvesting materials, collecting, doing my thing. I know that there are ghost leviathans around, but they don't seem to have noticed me. They don't seem to be bothering me. They're just kind of out there, and I'm being sneaky, so I feel like I'm fine. I gather my things, I gather my supplies, and I'm going back to my sea moth because I'm ready to go get reoxygenated and leave. I've accomplished what I need, and I am loaded with so much goodness. And what comes out of the darkness at me? The fucking ghost leviathan, but it's not going for me. No, it's going for my sea moth. It grabs a hold of it and it chomps it, it bites it, it rips it apart, and I am left at the bottom of the sea without my oxygen supply, and I am drowning as we speak, and I have no sea moth. And so for that moment alone, S tier on the Reaper. We have the reefbacks. I remember the first time I ran into a reefback. It freaked me the fuck out. All I see is the biggest thing that I've seen so far, and this is after I ran into a Reaper, and it's bigger than that. It's bigger than a Reaper. So I've already learned how mean a Reaper is, right? Because I ran into it over in the shallows and somehow managed to not run into any of the reefbacks at that point. And then I find something even bigger, and all I see is its shape looming in the distance, kind of hovering in the ocean, and I immediately lose my shit because I'm like, holy crap, this is even bigger. What do I do with that? And of course, it turns out that they're gentle giants, and you can harvest some nice shiny rocks from them, so that's real nice. For that moment of being pant-shittingly terrified of something that is completely innocuous and won't mess with you at all, and the fact that they're giant and really cool, and also you get nice shinies from them, we're gonna put them A tier. Next up, we have the reefback juveniles. I don't recall particularly seeing any of the juveniles, unless it literally is just a factor of them being a slightly smaller. I think they hang out with the adults. You see some of like just slightly smaller reefbacks hanging out with the bigger adult reefbacks. There's not much difference as far as I can tell. I don't think they're even located in a different part. If I'm wrong, let me know in the comments. It's fine. Just given that, as far as I can tell, they literally just hang out with the bigger reefbacks, we'll put them down in B tier. Next up, we have one of the big baddies, the sea dragon Leviathan. I remember the first time that I ran into these, my first foray into the lava zone, and I caught it out of the periphery of my eye. All I saw was like the tentacles at the bits at the back, right? And then it like swam around a rock outcrop and I didn't see the rest of it. And I made a comment, oh no, here comes Cthulhu. And then I ended up seeing the full thing. And it's basically if you took a dragon and a Cthulhu and you made them into one being. And that's all this is it's just a dragon Cthulhu. And it also breathes fireballs at you. So that's freaking intimidating and crazy. But although it is a hell of an intimidating beast, and it is super dangerous, what with the fireball breath and all that, I feel like by the time I ran into this, it just wasn't as bad. I felt like I was good. I was equipped with some of the best equipment. I was in the lava zone, which is not nearly as abyssal and terrifying as some of the other zones. Don't get me wrong, lava's scary and everything, but lava isn't as scary as the abyssal depths for some reason that my brain insists makes sense. Cool design, really cool enemy. I'm going to put him in the C column. Oh, disgraceful. How the mighty have fallen. A Leviathan in the C column. Say it's not so, but it is. Let's go. Next up, we have the Sea Emperor, the Mama MILF fish herself. Only fish aside from the mind control fish to actually speak to you. Mama MILF fish communicates with you directly, helps you to get off of the planet, and all she wants in return is for her young to be able to live. Now, I'm not totally sure that's a good thing. I'm a little bit torn. On the one hand, Mama MILF seems like she's just trying to make sure her kids stay alive, and that's all she wanted. And she got kind of tangled in with this whole experimentation going on with all the aliens that were doing all kinds of shady shit before we ever got there. So maybe she's just an innocent victim trying to look out for her kids. But she is also a super hyper intelligent aquatic being that is going to forever alter the landscape of our little sea world. So she's a little bit sinister. But she's also the Mama Sea MILF, so a S tier for her. There we go. Next, we have the Sea Emperor Juvenile and the Sea Emperor Baby. These are both the young of the Sea Emperor. Not only do you end up actually taking an active part in prolonging and extending these things' lives, but also they end up giving you components for the cure that you need to get the fuck out of there with all the enzymes and the goopies and the blah, blah, blah. And hello, cat. Sure, just come on up here and chill with us, I guess. Pretty cool. They did some pretty significant things. We basically helped give birth to the babies. So based on that, we're going to give them a B tier because, you know, B for baby, B for birth. Also, you see them for like, 5 seconds in one instance, so it's not like we can really say that they were super impactful in the game, even though they did end up being kind of important. But B tier is where we'll go. I'm inclined initially to give some good points toward the juvenile Sea Emperor because at that stage when they become juveniles, they help you out with the cure and all that. That was a pretty cool little moment. However, juveniles are teenagers and teenagers are assholes, I say to my largely teenage audience. So C tier at best. Grow the fuck up, guys. Come on. Was that too harsh? Deal with it. Do not bite the mic. Don't bite the mic. I paid a lot of money for that. I paid a lot of money for that mic for you to be trying to bite on it. I don't know why you rub your gums all over that. That can't be comfortable, bro. That's not like soft. It's hard plastic and you just like gumming it up. I know you're like trying to get your scent on it for some weird cat bullshit, but like what do you get from that? Honestly. Next up, we have the Sea Treader Leviathan. Sea Treader Leviathan. I'm going to be honest with you. I never encountered this dude. I don't know exactly what he is. Apparently, he's a super big, super cool dude. I've been ranted and raved at enough by any of the people in chat or comments about how cool the Sea Trader was that I know he's a really cool dude. I did never run into him, which I regret. And as a consequence, I now cannot give him the coveted S rank. I can't do it. Never even saw him in the game, so I can't give him the S rank. I know you're mad. I'm sorry. No, I'm not. Live with it. However, because I know that if you've made it to this point, you're invested enough in this whole ranking, this whole big fishy business, that you actually give a little bit of a fuck about this. And I know that I'm going to hear from you directly in the comments in the most pitchfork and hellfire and brimstone fashion known to man if I give this man too low of a rank. And I know I've already burnt some bridges with giving the cuttlefish a C rank. So I'm going to go out on a limb here based on it having a fairly cool-ish design and the endorsement of my community and not particularly wanting to get into an all-out flame war in the comments, and I'm going to give him an A rank, okay? I do that for you because I love you, all right? A rank. So there you have it. That is my ranking of every fish in the base game of Subnautica. I may very well end up playing Below Zero at some point, although I have a very mixed bag of play Sub-Zero, no Sub-Zero's trash going on in the people that I've talked to about it. So comment if you like Sub-Zero or not. Tell me why. Tell me why I should play it or not play it. Is it just more Subnautica, so I should play that? Is it subpar trash? Let me know. If it is a game that I eventually play, I might do a tier list on all the fish in Sub-Zero. I'll probably do some more tier lists. I enjoyed this. So if you want to see more tier list type content, whether that be directly in a live stream or a video like this, let me know in the comments as well. And yeah, that's about it. Flame me if you want. They're just fish. Stay salty, nerds.